On the 70th anniversary of communist rule in China, a massive military parade in Beijing showcased some fancy new weapon systems. But how dangerous do they make the Chinese military? Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Because if you're going to be making fun of the Chinese Communist Party, you're going to want a reliable VPN to hide your identity. 70 years ago, on October 1st, the world's bloodiest dictator took over the world's most populous nation with the world's most murderous ideology. And from then on, the Communist Party has ruled what it called the People's Republic of China. And to celebrate 70 uninterrupted years of communist delight, China's leaders threw the country a birthday party. And no birthday party would be complete without some cutting-edge weapons of mass destruction. Get him, Tanya, that donkey will never walk again. Okay, I actually meant these cutting-edge weapons of mass destruction. Bigger sticks, but no candy. There was once a time that China relied on reverse-engineered Soviet military systems, or at best, developed substandard weapons at a snail's pace. But not anymore. Now, China relies on reverse-engineered US military systems, and uses that to develop not only its own tanks and planes, but also cutting-edge stealth technology, combat drones, and hypersonic missiles. Not to mention the latest in pop-up leadership. In the past decade, China's defense budget has grown by at least 10% every year. At $168.2 billion, China's military spending is now second only to the United States. Yeah, there's still a lot of difference between first and second place. China's October 1st parade saw familiar weapons like wing-long combat drones that were deployed in Libya, or DF-26 missiles dubbed the Guam Killers, because they have the range to hit military installations in the US territory of Guam in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. But beside these important staples, the Chinese military showcased some sophisticated new systems, including a few world firsts. So in today's episode, let's look at 9 military systems that got the red carpet treatment on the 70th anniversary of communist rule in China. Number 9. First, what pundits widely called the biggest surprise of the day, the Dongfeng 17. It's a known fact that the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, or PLARF, would play a central role in any conflict involving China. Little surprise then that missiles were center stage. Specifically, the DF-17, ballistic missiles that deploy a triangular hypersonic glide vehicle. They launch like an ordinary ballistic missile, but the warhead has small wings, and after separating from the booster, it acts like a maneuverable glider. Hypersonic, so it can fly at 5 to 10 times the speed of sound and deliver a conventional or nuclear warhead. The glider lets the DF-17 fly at a flatter trajectory so it can avoid enemy radar. They're harder to detect and can evade anti-ballistic missile interceptors. Countries like Russia and the US are said to be working on similar designs, but so far, China's the only one that's got this in its official arsenal. Number 8. Another much-anticipated hot-off-the-assembly line weapon making its public debut is the road-mobile DF-41 Intercontinental Strategic Nuclear Missile System. One missile can pack a single big wallop or carry up to 10 independently targetable warheads. Prior to the launch of the DF-41, China didn't have a ballistic missile capable of hitting the US mainland in the event of a nuclear war. The best they could do was hit Guam. But with the DF-41, China looks to have overcome its biggest weakness in military strategy against the United States. Chinese state media says this rollout is for, quote, balancing power and securing victory. Not against any target in particular, but just so you know, the continental United States is within range. Number 7. Another new weapon that was supposed to be shrouded in mystery but got leaked in a promo video ahead of the parade was hidden inside these launch canisters. They say DF-100 on the side, but maybe to restore a sense of mystery, the CCTV announcer called it the CJ-100 Hypersonic Cruise Missile.
Here comes the CJ-100 cruise missile formation, the latest in CJ series. The hypersonic weapon features high precision and long-range strike capability, as well as fast response.
The CJ stands for Changjian, or Long Sword. The People's Liberation Army Rocket Force accidentally posted footage of what appears to be a test launch of the CJ, or DF-100, a week before the parade. An expert told the South China Morning Post that the missile's slim dorsal fins, foldable tail fins, and additional propellant suggests it's a long-distance hypersonic weapon with a range of more than 680 miles. Can't hit the US, but it's good enough for the South China Sea. Number 6. Another debut was the JL-2 Submarine-Launched Ballistic Missile, or SLBM.
The second generation JL-2 can be launched from nuclear submarines.
Launched with just the wave of a hand. The People's Liberation Army Navy started testing the JL-2 from submarines as far back as 2002. Since 2016, the Chinese military has had 48 launchers and warheads ready to deploy from nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarines. But until this October 1st parade, the Chinese military had never officially acknowledged the existence of this weapon. So this was the official unveiling of the JL-2, which is believed to have a range of more than 5,000 miles and the ability to deliver one big nuclear warhead or up to 8 smaller nukes. It's like getting one big cupcake or 8 mini cupcakes of radioactive destruction. Number 5. After sleek-looking missiles, it was time for something that looked a little more goth. The HSU-001 drone submarine. It looks like the submarine equivalent of Too Much Black Eyeliner. But, like the Smashing Pumpkins, this autonomous underwater vehicle could be a game changer. Since it's the world's first openly deployed fully robotic submarine capable of long-range missions, this submersible drone could really be a sea change in naval warfare. So far, though, only small, short-range drone subs have been used, because long-range autonomous subs are too expensive and complex. Not much is known about this HSU-001, but since it doesn't have any torpedo tubes, I assume it's to be used for spying on the mermaids in the South China Sea. How dare they violate China's territorial waters? Those mermaids better recognize the 9-dash line. Number 4. Another drone debut was this blade-like craft with the designation DR-8 or WZ-8, a supersonic spy drone. Designed to soar over the Pacific at speeds ranging from between 3 and 5 times the speed of sound, the supersonic spy drone uses a mysterious propulsion system. The Chinese military has not disclosed any information about the propulsion, but the tech nerds at The Aviationist figure that it's probably a liquid or hybrid rocket engine. The South China Morning Post reported that the DR-8 would be expected to play a key role should there be a conflict with U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups in the South China Sea or Western Pacific. The DR-8 spy drone is said to be able to launch from the ground or from another aircraft, though frankly, even in the parade, it's terrifying. Number 3. The H-6N long-range bomber is an upgraded version of the H-6 series, which until now could only carry and drop gravity nuclear bombs. But the fuselage of the new H-6N seems to have a cavity that would allow it to carry a huge air-launched nuclear missile. And in smog like that, you probably won't see it coming. Another new feature is an in-flight refueling probe for air-to-air top-ups. That would give the H-6N an estimated range of 3,700 miles, or from Beijing to Alaska. Not really a threat. Number 2. Another new reveal was the latest version of the Sharp Sword stealth combat drone, the Hongdu GJ-11 Lijian. The drone now features a completely redesigned rear aspect with a stealthier exhaust. Because sometimes, you just need a stealthier exhaust. The drone can carry 2 tons of laser-guided bombs or missiles. It also happens to look a bit like the US Navy's X-47B attack drone. I'm not saying it was stolen technology, but... Anyway, good luck, because America's X-47B supposedly performed well in tests, but was never deployed. In any case, a non-weaponized version of the GJ-11 will deploy on Chinese aircraft carriers, all 2 of them, where it will be used for surveillance and reconnaissance missions. Number 1. The final debut worth mentioning is one that looks like you could order the kit from Taobao and assemble it in your garage. A two-man gyrocopter called the Hunting Eagle. The Hunting Eagle Gyrocopter is basically a smaller, cheaper, and slower version of a helicopter. So, it would be terrible in combat. But don't worry, this Eagle won't be in combat. The hunting part means search and rescue, border control, reconnaissance, anti-riot, and other roles. It will also be used to self-deploy Chinese special forces on missions into enemy territory. So, not as fierce as those other weapons, but I still wouldn't want that landing in my backyard. Or Hong Kong. So, why did the Chinese Communist Party choose to show off all these advanced weapons? For the same reason my friend Damien always takes off his shirt at the gym in front of the ladies. Sure, he gets a lot of attention, but deep down inside, he's insecure. And he wants America to know that if they mess with him in the South China Sea, he can stand up for himself. Wait, I'm not talking about Damien anymore, but basically it's the same thing. Think of this month's giant military parade like Xi Jinping with his shirt off. Wait, don't think about that. But anyway, just because the Chinese Communist Party is insecure doesn't mean its military is just a bluff. They've spent decades stealing US technology and developing their own weapons. Sure, their troops lack combat experience, but some of their weapons could still cause major damage to the US in a war. And the Chinese Communist Party televised the whole parade and broadcast a version with English voiceover to make sure that its frenemy across the Pacific knows what's up. And this episode has been sponsored by Surfshark. You should protect your identity with a VPN when you go online. That's why I use Surfshark. You should be using a VPN too, whether you're in Hong Kong protesting communist China or simply going online in a public place anywhere in the world. With Surfshark, you can protect your private information while surfing the web, like your banking info or the websites you visit. And if you're in a country that doesn't allow you to access the entire internet, you can use Surfshark's No Borders mode to get around it. But Surfshark also makes sure that all of your favorite apps and websites will still work no matter where you go when you add them to their whitelister feature. Plus, you can connect as many devices as you want. Try it out with a 30-day money-back guarantee. And Surfshark has an amazing discount for China Uncensored fans. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code UNCENSORED to get 83% off a 2-year plan. Plus, get 1 extra month free. Protect yourself online? Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.